I can't believe I get to be the first person.
You're special.
Well, this is a very, very, very special day. I'm always proud to live in the People's Republic of New York. But especially today, I'm proud because under the leadership of Mayor Bill de Blasio and Chirlane McCray, New York is becoming the first city in the nation to require employers to provide full-time and part-time workers with 10 days of paid personal time at the rate of 1 hour for every 30 hours worked. This will affect 1 million New Yorkers, most of them women of color and immigrant women in low-wage industries who have often been forced to choose between their kids and their own needs and losing a paycheck. We are behind other nations in forcing this impossible choice between, say, attending a parent-teacher conference or a funeral and losing a job. And we're also behind in childcare and other areas. But with New York City taking the lead, I have confidence that others will follow. Now that the national government is trying to take us back to the past, cities, and especially New York City, are leading us as a nation to the future. I thank you so much. I thank you so much, and I'm so glad we're all here celebrating.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much, Gloria. New York City, we work hard, don't we?
Yes. Yes.
Who thinks there are a lot of New Yorkers who need a break? Yeah, well, I do too. So many New Yorkers, especially women and immigrants, are in an impossible struggle for more time. And for too long, no one has stood up for them. Too many employers don't care who burns out on the job, and they don't care about lost family time. But New Yorkers are not cogs in money-making machines, are they?
No.
Oh, here's what I say. Working people are people with loved ones to celebrate and grieve, children to parent, and working people are humans with the need to relax and recharge themselves, at least as much as we charge our cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Their mental health matters. Their well-being matters. A health aide who spends her life caring for others deserves time to care for herself. A single mother pulling double shifts to pay for piano lessons deserves to see her child shine at a recital. A restaurant worker sending half his check back home deserves time off to see his family again. Workers are human beings with full lives outside of the job they do every day. And no one should be juggling it all without time off. So let me ask you, New York City, are you ready to fight for working people?
Yes.
Will you fight for the time they earned and the dignity they deserve?
Yes.
All right now. Now let's hear from our mayor who's going to help us get this done.
Very good for Monday morning. Thank you, Chirlane. Everybody, I want to say you heard the voice of our First Lady, and she feels deeply because she's lived it. As a working mom, she saw how much people have to balance and how hard it is, and there's so many people who don't get any time off at all, but she is fighting for every New Yorker, every American to get what they deserve. Let's give our First Lady a round of applause. And I just have to say, being in the presence of Gloria Steinem, who is someone I have admired my entire life, Gloria, when you join with us, and when you say something's important, and when you say something can and will happen, people listen, because you've been there and you have been at the forefront of so many struggles for the dignity of working people, of women, for human rights in so many ways, and you have proven many a time when they say it can't be done, it's just a matter of time until it can be done. Let's thank Gloria for her leadership. So, brothers and sisters, working people deserve a break. That is the bottom line. So I'm going to ask you, I know it's Monday morning, but we better get energized for a good cause here. So, do you deserve a break?
Yes.
Do you deserve time off for what really matters?
Yes.
Do you deserve to rest and recharge and be there for the people you love?
Yes.
You are right. And we're here to demand an economy that works for working people. Because what's happening right now is not working. Let's be clear. So many people are struggling to make ends meet. They're working 1 job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs just to make ends meet. They don't get time for themselves. They don't get time for their families. They don't have a quality of life worth all that effort. That's what's happening in the richest country in the world. Well, we in New York City say it doesn't have to be that way. And we're going to change it now, right?
Yes.
All right. Now I want to thank everyone who's a part of this effort, because we're going to do something historic here. I want everyone to understand the magnitude of this. We are the only industrialized nation on earth that is not guaranteed working people time off. The only one on earth. There is not yet a state or city in America that guarantees working people 2 weeks paid vacation. It does not exist in this country. Until now, here in New York City, we will set the pace for this nation right here. I want to thank everyone who is here and support everyone who's ready to fight this fight. I want to thank the members of my administration who are leading the way. Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson, Commissioner of the new Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, Commissioner Lorelei Salas, Executive Director for the Commission on Gender Equity, Jacqueline Ebanks. And I also want to thank, you're going to hear from some of my colleagues from elective office and from labor who are in the forefront of this effort, but I also want to thank the organizations that are fighting this fight in every way. I want to thank A Better Balance. Is A Better Balance here? I want to thank Unite Here, Local 100. I want to thank UAW, Region 9A. I want to thank Fast Food Justice. I want to thank Make the Road. And I want to thank Rock United. Are you here? There you go. Everybody, I want you all to think about your own lives. I want you to think about those times when you were working hard and you didn't have enough time for what mattered. Because I think everybody here can think about that for yourselves and for your family members, how hard people work. And wherever I go in this city, wherever I go in this country, I ask people, are you working longer hours than you used to? And almost every person says yes. Working more and more, but not getting the reward for that work. That's what we see. And I talk about the situation that Charlene and I found ourselves in when we were young parents, and we both were working, so 2 jobs, 2 kids, and then my mom got sick, and we moved her close to us so we could take care of her. And then right after that, Charlene's mom got sick, and we moved her close as well. So we had the 2 moms just a block away from us, the 2 young kids, the 2 jobs. And we were trying to juggle all that. And I'll tell you, it was beautiful that our kids got to see their grandmas. That was a beautiful thing. But for Charlene and I, we were trying to make sense of it. We were part of what they call that sandwich generation, trying to keep it all together for everyone, trying to take care of our moms, trying to take care of our kids, trying to be there at work. And it got harder and harder. And I think almost everyone has their version of that story, of somehow trying to do right by the people you love and earn a paycheck. And it feels like it makes less and less sense, and it gets harder and harder all the time. That's what millions and millions of New Yorkers and millions of Americans are experiencing. Now, what does it mean that people are working harder and harder, and what they get for that work is less and less time for themselves and more stress? It means their quality of life is getting worse, not better. It means their American dream isn't working. And it means the laws of our nation aren't working for working people. So we have to do something about it. And we know from history, and Gloria is a witness to this, that change comes from the grassroots. Change comes from the people. And we're going to start the change right here in New York. But I have to tell you why it's so urgent we do this here in New York. Because this new information has come out. And when we originally started this effort, working with our colleagues in the City Council, working with the public advocate, we knew hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers were working full-time and didn't get a single day off in the year. But there's new data that's come out that's really studied this even more closely, and now the number is even worse. There's now up to 1 million New Yorkers who are working, who are struggling to make ends meet and don't get a single day of paid vacation. 1 million New Yorkers. Tell me something, is that wrong?
Yes.
Is that wrong?
Yes.
Do we have to change that?
Yes.
And we need to do it now. And I also remind people, this didn't happen by accident. We have to be blunt about this fact. This is an agenda that's been foisted on all of us by corporate America, and too often with the help of our federal government, where working people get less and less and the wealthy get more and more. Working people work harder and harder, and they don't get their fair share back. People just want fairness. They want a fair day's pay for a hard day's work. They want some time for themselves and their family. But the way our country's going is literally the opposite direction. Harder and harder work for less and less. It is not sustainable. It's not going to work. We have to break this cycle. We have to challenge that corporate greed and break this cycle once and for all. And it's only going to happen by standing up and saying, as a matter of law, that working people, full-time and part-time, deserve 2 weeks off every single year. Now I want to say this. Get ready for the doubting Thomases. Get ready for the naysayers. All of you, get ready. The naysayers are coming.
That's right.
Brace yourselves. They will tell you, when we do this, the city will start to lose jobs, people will be laid off, the economy will go to hell. They will tell you this. I think some of my good friends in labor will attest. We heard that every single time we raised the minimum wage. We heard that when we all did paid sick leave together. We heard that when we did the Fair Work Week together. Every time we heard the same refrain, it would hurt our economy and we would lose jobs. Well, guess what? We have more jobs in New York City than we've ever had in our history. And then, they'll tell you, well, this is taking us in this horrible direction. They'll say it's creeping socialism, my friends. Get ready, creeping socialism. So let me tell you about the countries that already provide at least 2 weeks off for working people. I'm going to give you the list just so you can feel the impact. Japan, Canada, Switzerland, Greece, the Netherlands, Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, Germany, Belgium, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Austria, the United Kingdom, and France. Oh boy. If they can do it, we can do it, right? Yes. So here's what I want to say in the end. This is about our government fighting for working people, not for big corporations. This is about putting working people first. This is what we need to do every single day, because it hasn't been done enough. And the bottom line for working New Yorkers, you deserve dignity. You deserve respect. And you deserve your lives back. You deserve a life that is worth living. I'm going to say a few words in Spanish. Los trabajadores merecen una calidad de vida decente. Por eso Nueva York será la primera ciudad del país que garantiza a sus trabajadores 2 semanas de tiempo libre pagado. Esta nación ha sido construida por los trabajadores y vamos a retribuirles el tiempo que ellos se han ganado. With that, and I want to thank him for his leadership, the prime sponsor of the paid personal time legislation, someone who has believed for a long time that when you do right by working people, it works for everyone. And he is a strong, strong voice. My great pleasure to introduce our public advocate, Jumaane Williams.
What's up, everybody? How you doing? I'm going to say we need, you say a break. We need. A break. We need. A break. We deserve. A break. We deserve. A break. We earned. A break. We earned. A break. All right, let's get it. I want to say thank you to everyone for bringing us here. Chief among us, the mayor, of course, for his support. My co-prime, council member Helen Rosenthal. I'm honored to be here with so many groups. And the icon Gloria Steinem and so many others. So thank you so much. I just recently came back from a vacation. I took a week off. I say that because I don't remember the last time I've taken a week off. And really not because I couldn't, because culturally we have been trained to believe that taking time off somehow it makes something wrong with you, or somehow that you're lazy, or somehow that you're not working off. And part of this is not just about changing the law, but it is changing the culture of understanding what a vacation is. It's not an ask for something that one doesn't deserve. It's actually an ask for something somebody needs and has to have to live a healthy and productive life. And it's time to give New Yorkers a break. It's clear to me that too often Americans are overworked and undervalued. New York City should lead the way on workers' rights, especially amid a national environment that treats those workers less like people and more like a commodity or a talking point. Time away from work is essential for mental health and well-being, and in turn for productivity in the workplace when you return. Time off is not a luxury. It is a necessity, one that many don't have. As was mentioned, almost 1 million New Yorkers. I was proud to have proposed this in 2014 to enshrine it as a right to relax. I'm happy that now in the council and elsewhere, the environment is ripe to get this done. Only 52% of low-wage workers have some amount of paid personal time as compared to high-wage employees, 90% of which have an amount of personal paid time off. In 2007, 69% of low-wage employees had paid personal time. This legislation, which I'm hoping will advance in New York City, will help close this gap and advance economic justice. This is an effort to create change not only statutorily, as I mentioned, but culturally. As the mayor rattled off a list of countries that already have this, and some of them have even more. Americans forfeited 212 million days of vacation, or $62.2 billion in 2017. Cultural mindset that prioritizes work over well-being and creates fear of retaliation for anyone who takes the time offered. This bill will protect employees from retaliation for asking for simply something that human beings need, time to rest, relax, not only mentally, but physically. There will be those, and all those mentioned, who will try to paint this policy as too far left, too ambitious, too progressive. I don't think you can be too any of those, but that's another conversation. But we are the only advanced economy and country which does not mandate some level of paid personal leave. Our country is far behind. Our people are overworked and undervalued, and it's time for New York City to make up for this lost time. But I do want to say and always mention that as having a business myself, it failed, but I still had one. I am always attuned to the issues of small businesses. So I am very much wanting to continue to listen to small businesses and the issues they have as we move forward in implementing this. It is my hope that we can move from not now to how best. So we can all get together and figure out how best do we do this to provide what workers need while still allowing our small businesses to thrive. There is a great sweet spot that we will get to make sure this gets passed, but we all have to agree that people deserve and have earned time off to rest their mind, to rest their body. Our city will be better for it. Our country looks at this city and will follow suit, and we are right where we should be, leading the way on how best to treat workers. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on in this hearing. Peace and blessings, everybody.
Y'all ready for a break? Yes! I'm gonna say we need, you say a break, we need? A break! We need? A break! We need? A break! We deserve? A break! We earn? A break!
You covered it. Thank you so much, Damani. Next, I want you to hear from someone who has really led the way in this city on the notion that we can do so much more for working people. We can do it in a way that's fair. We can do it in a way that makes us stronger. And this is a conversation I've been having with Hector Figueroa for years and years. And I want to say, Hector, we started this conversation long before people thought these things could happen. And I want to thank you for your leadership on $15 minimum wage. I want to thank you for your leadership on behalf your leadership on behalf of fast food workers who are now organizing like never before. I want to thank you for your leadership for airport workers who are organizing like never before. So, Hector, the nicest thing I can say is that you live up to that simple phrase, si se puede. You've proven it. The president of 32BJ SEIU, Hector Figueroa.
Okay, I use the stand. We stand tall, but we can be taller.
You're taller, right?
So, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Buenos dias. Can we have a break?
Yes!
Will we win a break?
Yes!
Now, usually we say when we fight, we win, right? Yes. But today we're also going to say when we win, we break. And in all seriousness, having a break for working families in New York, for working people, is an outstanding initiative. And we want to thank the mayor, we want to thank the public advocate, all council members who are behind this idea, our First Lady, Gloria. This will help domestic workers, and you've been there with them in the forefront. And we want to thank all the unions that are here. This is a circular staircase, so you cannot see them all, but we have all number of organizations and unions behind this effort. And of course, I have to be here thanking the members of 32BJ because they know firsthand that New Yorkers need a break, that it is not a question of an entitlement. It's a question of us being able to replenish our bodies, to be able to have good mental health, to be able to see the people we love when we need to, either to care for them, to be able to grieve for them, and for us to be able also to be in touch and in contact with friends and others who help us get by every single day. An airport worker cannot be there safeguarding the public, maintaining our most secure facilities in New York City with an exhausted body and a preoccupied mind. Yes. This is a public safety issue. A fast food worker cannot be helping feed hard-working New Yorkers day after day, and not being able to be there for the children, or not be able to be there for a family member who needs attention. That is not fair, and it needs to start in New York City, and it needs to go through the whole state, the whole country, that workers can have paid leave, paid sick days, and now paid vacation days. So I could go on and on to talk about how important this is and how those who say that this is too expensive, these workers work too hard and they deserve it. But I'd like just for 1 second, if I may, just to hear from one of our workers who so much will benefit from this, is my brother, Junior Montgomery. He's from Jamaica. He worked at JFK. Just on his own words, he's here. I don't need to speak for himself. And in hearing him, I hope you all understand how critical it is that we pass this initiative. The mayor is having the vision and delivering on the commitment for working people. But it's to help folks like Junior. It's to help all New Yorkers. That's all that we want to accomplish. And we will win vacation days.
Thank you, Hector.
Workers simply need a break. We need the recognition that we work hard. All of New York City, we're all workers, especially the people who work in the service-related jobs. They don't get the luxury of a day like Memorial Day off because they're at work. I work Christmas, I work Thanksgiving, I work New Year's Day. Vacation is not a luxury for us, it's a necessity. We need it now.
Thank you.
Now, I want to introduce two council members who are leading the way and are going to help the public advocate and I to make sure this gets done quickly, because working people need a break now. When do working people need a break? Now. I'm sorry, can't hear you yet. When do working people need a break? Now. There you go. First, the chair of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor, and he has done amazing work as a labor leader, but also proving that people in government can help unions grow strong and add members, and that working people deserve to be part of a labor union. Council member and Chair Danique Miller.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Public Advocate. Thank you both for your vision and this opportunity to be here on behalf of working families, something that I've spent my entire adult life advocating for. For centuries, organized labor have worked on behalf and been the voice of working families. And New York City has led the way. Today, as you see, by 32BJ and the other unions being here today, once again, they have led their voice in demonstrating that New York and organized labor values workers. There is a reason why 67 million people come to New York City, right? There is a reason why companies and corporations want to set up business here in New York City. It is because of the quality of the services that get delivered. It is the workers that are here, that under all the adverse situations, they are here, they are showing up, and they are providing these services. But in order for us to be able to provide the quality of service, they need to be properly compensated. They need to be properly rested. This is common sense. This is common sense because this continues to add value to this great city. So I want to lend my voice to this great legislation. We're going to go upstairs. We're going to have a hearing. We're going to make sure that we drill down and understand that we're not only evaluating workers, but that this is common sense, that it works for our city. Our city continues to grow. And I'm looking forward to the hearing upstairs. But again, I really want to thank the mayor. I want to thank the public advocate for their leadership and say that this council has once again stood firmly behind working families here in the city of New York. My pledge is, again, to be attentive to the concerns of all the stakeholders, but to get this done because working people need a break. Once again, I'd like to thank the public advocate, the Mayor de Blasio, for their continued advocacy, the staunch leadership on behalf of working families, and proponent of this idea, which is rooted in what? Fairness, and that workers need a break. Thank you so very much for being here. Look forward to passing this legislation. Thank you.
And co-sponsor of the paid personal time legislation, and one of the strongest voices for gender equality in this city and in this city council, Council Member Helen Rosenthal.
Why, thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I am going to take a point of personal privilege and do a quick selfie with you and with Gloria Steinem right behind you. So sort of lean that way.
Lean this way?
Yeah, thank you.
This is happening live.
And let's be clear, Gloria Steinem was one of the first people who endorsed me in my run for city council, and I'll always be grateful to her for that. Good morning, I'm Helen Rosenthal, Chair of the City Council's Committee on Women and Gender Equity. They say about New York City, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. But the truth is, too many people struggle. New York City is a hard place to live. 1 million New Yorkers get no personal time off. As our public advocate said, 50% of low-income workers get no personal time off. And that is why they struggle, and that is why they stay low income. And what we're proposing today, and why it's so important, is that not that a worker get it for free, because none of us get it, personal time for free.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
We work.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So this law specifies for every 30 hours worked, you get 1 hour paid personal time. Isn't that what we all get? No. 50% of low-income workers don't get that. So that's all this bill does. All this bill does is make it so the other 50% of low-income workers, 1 million New Yorkers, can earn their personal time as well.
Amen.
Paid time off, and I won't go into it. You've said it, Gloria. But paid personal time off provide workers with a basic peace of mind and a sense of personal dignity, something that we all deserve and need. And so I commend the mayor, our public advocate, for pushing forward this legislation. I'm proud to be second on it. It's long overdue and should be considered by governments across the country.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Our last speaker fights for justice all the time. She is a domestic worker herself, and she has helped to lead and organize other domestic workers in the National Domestic Workers Alliance. And let's remember, these are people who every day help families stay together, deal with the needs of other people's families. Don't they deserve a right to take care of their own families? Don't they deserve time for themselves?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Marina Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone who's around. Don't we deserve a break?
Yes.
Don't we deserve a break?
Yes.
Don't we deserve a break?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marina James, and I am a nanny. It is hard to believe that I am here standing at the threshold that is a new law, that could change the lives of many women like myself. I can tell you, I love New York. My daughter was born here. I met my husband here. This is my home. I am a proud New Yorker. It took me a long time to be able to say I am a New Yorker. I am a hard-working New Yorker. I do have rights. For years, I could not say that. I was afraid. I worked as a domestic worker for 25 years, all that time. I worked with 11 different families. I have helped raise many children. And my daughter never had the opportunity to go to the park nor the museum, while I take other people's children at the park and the museum. Raise your hand if anyone in here can say that they never had the time to do that with their children and not receiving a paycheck. Let me see who'd raise their hand and not receiving a paycheck. Over the years, I grew tired and resentful. I could never take a break without leaving pay. I had to choose between attending a PTA meeting and getting a full salary. I had to choose between participating in an important family event and losing my job. I see families I work for take 2 to 3 weeks of well-deserved vacation, and I had time off because they were away, but I didn't get paid for that. I didn't do anything because I could not afford to do anything. For years, I was paralyzed. Employers did not offer vacation benefits, and I did not ask. I did not know I could. I did not know I had the right to advocate for myself and many women in my situation. People ask me, what do you do with paid vacation time? All I can say, I would do what all families do. I would visit my family. I would take my daughter for trips to Florida, the trip I would have given her when she graduated from high school a year ago. Mayor de Blasio, thank you for recognizing that I have a voice and I have rights too. For the next generation of domestic workers, I would like them to have it better than I do. Thank you.
You know, I thought you were shy at first. I think Maureen spoke a lot of truth, didn't she? Let's thank her again. I want to make one last point because what Maureen said needs to hit home. There are millions and millions of folks who think that getting that paid time off is just a part of life. Professional folks, folks who have done very well, who would not even dream of the notion of never having a single paid vacation day. And I'm very happy that all those folks have paid vacation days. But look what's happening in the city, look what's happening in this country, that some of the hardest working people, some of the folks who get the least compensation, don't have a single paid day off in a year. So I say to everyone, if you wouldn't want it to be something missing in your life, if you can't imagine what it would be like to not have a single paid day off in a year, if you think 2 weeks paid vacation makes sense in your life, it should make sense in Maureen's life. It should make sense in every working person's life. So we're now going to take questions from the media on this topic, on paid time off, and then we'll talk about other topics after. Yes, Sally.
Mayor, Jumaane Williams first introduced this bill in 2014 when he was a city council member. I'm just wondering if it's so important, why has it taken 5 years to get to this point?
Sally, this is a question all the time that people ask in the media, and I understand the question, but I want to put things in perspective. We in government, we have to move a whole larger agenda. In the beginning, we had a central focus on things like paid sick leave. We had a central focus on raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. There were a lot of things that we had to do for working people. Pre-K for all the children of working people, after school for free. There were so many pieces of the agenda we had to move. And one of the things that is a real dynamic in government is you move an aggressive agenda, but you still have to sequence that agenda. This is now, having gotten all those other powerful changes and reforms, it was time to move to this. And I want to thank the public advocate because he was ahead of his time. And he provided leadership, and this was an issue that wasn't on the radar, and Jumaane Williams helped put it on the radar, and let's thank him for that.
Does it have anything to do with you running for president? Because you've been using this on the campaign trail. So
again, look at the sequence. You guys have seen the whole trajectory. We started first year with paid sick leave. We moved on to $15 minimum wage. All the other pieces that have been about supporting working people. This made sense to do now after all those other pieces were complete. That's why we're doing it. Yes?
So who does this apply to exactly? I mean, we have union workers here who I would think contracts provide paid time off. So how does this work and who does it apply to?
So I'm going to, in a second, turn to Commissioner Salas and to Liz Vladeck to talk about the details of who is reached. But I want to make a point about why union members are here, because they're fighting for working people. They're fighting for all working people. And this is something that, to all the unions represented here, they don't think it's okay if someone has a benefit and no one else has it, right? They don't think it's okay if a lot of workers are left out, because that makes it bad for everyone. So one of the things that distinguishes the labor movement in New York City is all for one and one for all. Come on over.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, just because I have a minute, that This is the reason why I came to work for New York City. I am so touched and so humbled by what we're doing together. In any case, this law is meant to cover 1 million New Yorkers that do not currently have any paid personal time off under any collective bargaining agreements, or people who work for the city. Because as we work in the city, we already have entitlements to paid time off, right? So 1 million New Yorkers who don't have the leave. I would also venture to say that there are a number of workers, not under CBAs, but workers who went into employment because they were promised this leave, who are not currently getting it, because there's nothing. All jobs across all industries, from a nanny who's been working for years for a family, to retail workers, to restaurant workers, construction workers, everyone.
Union employees, construction workers.
Like I said, for the 1 million number does not include workers who already are covered by collective bargaining agreements, right? If those CBAs actually include comparable benefits, they are not going to have to make any changes to their contracts. They are already covered.
But wait, stay here a second. So let me just pick up on this. First of all, in construction, there's a huge number of non-union workers. In retail, huge number of non-union workers. In fast food, overwhelmingly non-union workers. I mean, there's a lot of sectors, even in the biggest union town in America, there's still a lot of workers who do not have the protection of labor union membership. And this legislation is going to reach full-time workers, part-time workers. They do have to take steps to qualify. And Commissioner, I think you should lay that out so everyone understands what's the qualifying level of work that gets you there. But I want to tell you that 1 million number is very sobering, because it's a reminder of just how many people do not have union membership and don't even have basic rights at the workplace.
So just quickly, as the mayor mentioned, part-time workers, full-time workers, they all would be covered by this law. Obviously, part-time workers would accrue at a slower rate, but there are plenty of workers, I have to say, who are working up to 72 hours a week. So those workers would tend to accrue at a higher rate. Thanks.
Hector, you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add that very often we forget that 3 out of 4 workers in New York don't have a union. They don't have a union protection. And that in order for us to win some demands, like paid sick days, paid leave, paid vacations, a minimum wage, you have to create a level playing field for their employers. So instead of having an employer being put at a disadvantage for offering things that the workers need in the competitive races that there are in all their sectors, you create the rules under which they compete. And our union has been quite consistent for the last 20 years that we cannot hold on to the benefits and the gains that we have under our collective bargaining agreements if the rest of the labor markers, those 3 out of 4 workers, don't have the same things that we win through the union. So this is vital for all workers to have.
And one other point to make. I talked earlier about the fact that there is an agenda at play here. One of the elements of that agenda, and you've seen it at the federal level now for decades, is undercutting the rights of organized labor. Compared to 30 years ago, unions are constantly diminished and attacked from the federal level. It used to be, in the age of Franklin Roosevelt, that labor was supported by the federal government, that people who wanted to join a union had a lot of ability to do so. Now the barriers to a union forming, the barriers to organizing, the barriers to workers joining a union get higher and higher all the time. Wages kept getting pushed down. We have seen in this country over decades a race to the bottom for working people that's part of a federal agenda on behalf of big corporations. This, what we're doing here, creates a race to the top. Push those benefits up. Push those rights of workers up, and everyone benefits. Yeah.
How in the world do you enforce this? I mean, when somebody's just working for a family, they might still be fearful to ask for that vacation time. I mean, what happens? What's the mechanism?
It's a very good question, and I'll again turn to Lorelei and Liz, but I want to say this. It is the very fact that someone may be fearful to request that which is their right, which is why we need this law, why we need to publicize to all employers that this will be the law of New York City and that there are consequences for not following the law. Do not forget the public education that occurs when the City Council passes a law, when I sign a law, and when we send a message that this is now these are the rules of the game. it has a big impact. So, Laura, you want to speak to how we will do enforcement?
Yes, we work very closely with the National Domestic Workers Alliance to make sure that our message to workers is coming loud and clear. We will enforce this law like we do all the laws that are currently in the books that my agency enforces, with paid safe and sick leave, with protections for freelance workers. And we do that all the time, taking into account the fears that the workers have about potentially having, retaliatory action by their employers. So we're very conscious of that. And like I said, we'll work very closely to make sure that there's enough education for workers and employers so they know their obligations. Let's not dismiss the fact there are a lot of employers out there who want to do the right thing, right? And they want to be in compliance with the laws. And so we will do our best to make sure that the message comes across to both workers and employers.
Bad guys, though.
Well, the penalties range between, I think it's about $500 for the first time violation, $750 for a second time violation, up to $1,000. Again, this is not about collecting fines. This is about changing the industry, making sure that we raise the standards. That's what we want. We don't want to be around collecting fines. We want the workers to have access to the benefit.
First, and you literally repeated that line, as well as a lot of elements that you've repeated on the campaign trail, specifically the story about your family early on. What would you say to someone that this is a taxpayer-funded campaign rally?
Yeah, and let's be real. There's a hearing about to begin on a piece of legislation that is a priority for me as mayor. It's a priority for the public advocate. It's a priority for members of the city council. We are calling to the people of New York City to say, support this legislation, we can get done. That's why we're here.
Just to follow up, why repeat elements of your stump speech?
Because I believe it.
Following up on Sally's question, which you didn't like earlier, this was first introduced in 2014. In 6 days, was passed in 2014. Why not just pass both of those?
Again, you have to focus on an agenda and development of agenda. You can't pass everything at once. We decided on what we thought was most necessary to do in sequence. It's as simple as that.
So from that, can we interpret that this is not as important as some of the other?
It's fair to say that in 2013 and 14, there was a tremendous focus on the city on getting paid sick leave done. It's fair to say there was a tremendous focus on getting pre-K for all done. Thereafter, getting $15 minimum wage. I respect the question, but I don't think it reflects the reality of being in public service. I think if we could do everything simultaneously, we would love to. The reality is to mount the efforts, and you remember we did mandatory inclusionary housing and a whole host of things. These were all huge efforts to get them done. They took a lot of time and energy. Each one was part of a larger plan to help working people. This was the next thing, and it was ready to go. It's as simple as that. Yes?
Going off of Anna's question, this is not necessarily the first time we've heard you before sort of appear to blend politics and government. For instance, the Trump Tower presser, you definitely repeated parts of your stuff that we just heard this weekend. Do you think you're blending government and politics?
I'm speaking from the heart about what I believe, and I have been in elections before, and I've been in public service before. I don't think that that's the way to think about it. If you're talking about the issues, you're talking about working people, you're talking about what you believe, doesn't matter if you're at a public event, a government event, political event, saying the same thing everywhere. Okay, any other questions on this? Yes?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
So the other question I had, this is about paid vacation, and a lot of people who have been helping out your presidential campaign have been using their vacation time to help you run for president. I mean, can you speak a little bit about that? Do you think that that's fair to ask people?
We're not asking anyone. We're not asking anyone. People are making their own choice.
Public advocate.
Yeah, Mr. Monti.
2 weeks ago, you were critical of the mayor, and you said you didn't believe he had both eyes on being mayor of New York City. Does his appearance at this event reassure you? Do you feel better about his presidential run now, 2 weeks later?
That's a hell of a question, man. You just put a lot of stuff in there.
Look at my eyes. Look at my eyes.
Look, we have discussions on different topics. I'm excited today to be here to talk about paid personal time off, and I'm excited that the mayor is backing it, and it seems that there's appetite in the council. So I just want to get it done. And as I said, when I got elected, I want to work with the mayor wherever possible to move this city forward. I'm going to work with whomever.
But are you Reassured by his focus on this issue that he can do two things at once.
I'm reassured in a couple weeks or a couple months, we're going to have paid personal time. I'm excited about that.
All right. Well done. Well done. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about the current state of affairs for city workers. My understanding is there are certainly some per diem workers in the DOE. I know hearing officers at oath are capped at 20 hours per week. They don't earn vacation time. I guess what can you say about do all city workers currently get some kind of paid leave, and if not, is this legislation gonna correct that?
Okay, let me first say I think there's been some assumptions about the per diem workers that were not accurate. So if you're asking to get the whole explanation of what happens with our per diem workers, what their real compensation is and all, we will get that to you today. On the question of whether per diem workers for the city are covered by this, do you know the answer now? We can say it now, or else we'll get back to you later on. Yes?
Mr. Mayor, if you're elected president, how much vacation time would you commit to taking?
I don't think you really get a vacation in that job. So, yes.
Question's actually for Gloria Steinem. Since you're here, are you going to endorse Mayor Bill de Blasio for president?
Could you say that to the microphone? Because they want to hear that. They actually do want to hear it on the microphone. Whatever you say, they need to hear it for their purposes.
All right. Mayor de Blasio is among my top 4 choices for president and the only male human being who is on that list.
That is a beautiful thing. Thank you. Thank you. Wait for her op-ed. Okay, on this topic, I want to see if there's any other questions on paid time off. Going once. Oh, yep.
Just do you know what the state of affairs is for contract workers?
Say again now?
Contract workers?
Contract workers. That's a broad category. You speak to that, Lorelei?
I guess if you're referring to freelance workers, I'm not really sure who the universe is. But if you are an employee of an employer in New York City, you are entitled to that leave. If you are a freelancer, that doesn't include you in this particular legislation.
Okay, sorry. Last call on paid time off questions. Last call going once, twice. Okay, we're going to take other topics. All right. Thank you, everybody. Well, you can hang or you can leave, whatever works for you. Okay, other topics, yes.
The City Board of Elections has not yet accepted the money that you've offered them for early polling. What are you going to do about that? Is there anything else the city can do? Is this just posturing on your part?
Look, today the City Board of Elections is supposed to come out with an answer on whether they're really going to do early voting the right way. And I want to be clear, I have offered them $75 million to do 100 plus early voting sites in New York City. And they still have not accepted that money. They said they were having trouble figuring out which sites would work. We gave them a list of over 200 sites. Today they're supposed to make an announcement. The only acceptable announcement is to have at least 100 early voting sites. If they do not do that, we will consider all options possible to make them create an early voting program that actually works for everyday New Yorkers, and we'll certainly consider legal action among those potential steps. Andrew.
It's about Amazon coming back to New York with 2 towers near Penn Station. Are you involved in those talks, and how close is it?
No, look, if Amazon decides, as Google did and as many other tech firms have, that they're going to expand their presence in New York City, that's their choice. I have not had any discussions with them. We are very jaded now after having made a full agreement that I thought was a fair agreement, and then they just walked away from the dead of night. So they have not spoken to me, they've not reached out to me, but if they do something on their own and it adds jobs, well, that's fine then. Marcia.
Mr. Mayor, you have a plan that's going to ease bail restrictions for teenagers. When it comes out as the daytime measure, the police commissioner has an op-ed piece saying he's opposed to some of these things because it doesn't take into consideration things like prior arrests, flight, the gravity of the offense. I wonder how you feel about that.
So, Marcia, no, we're absolutely in the same place. Marcia, first of all, we've had so many people who languished in jail because they couldn't afford bail. And that was unfair to them, unfair to their families, unfair to the people in New York City, because we had mass incarceration that was harmful to our whole society, harmful to taxpayers. It didn't need to be that way. So we're ensuring that there are real alternatives to incarceration, particularly for our youngest New Yorkers, who we need to focus on getting them on the right track. We need to support them. We need to make sure that they're being redeemed, not just locked up. But I want to tell you something. I have advocated very publicly in Albany for adding to law the ability of judges to determine if there is a dangerousness reality with a suspect and whether that suspect should be held because they create a threat to the community. That's something that Albany still should do. I agree with the police commissioner on that. That needs to be done before this legislative session is over. No, it's exactly what I've spoken about from the beginning of this legislative session. There are so many people who are not a threat, who should not be held simply because they can't afford the bail. And there are other people who could be a threat. Right now, our judges in New York State don't have the ability to make a decision based on that standard of dangerousness. That needs to be added to the law. I've said that from the beginning. Yes. Just let's get that first.
So as of last week, there were about 122 people who were issued summonses for violating the health emergency order. So two questions. One, are they paying those fines? And two, is there any guarantee that they're going to get vaccinated and not just pay off and get...
Look, what we've said is that when we're providing those violations, we want to fix the problem first. If someone goes and gets vaccinated, they may not end up paying that fine. Some people have paid the fine. But the real goal is to address this crisis and turn it around. In the last days, we've seen real progress. And I do think the measles crisis is leveling off, and I'm hopeful about where it's going. It's a small number, but we'll get it to you. But again, the most important thing is that people get vaccinated. If they do that, there's a good chance they're not paying that fine.
Mr. Mayor, back to the new guidelines from your Office of Criminal Justice. There's some concerns about maintaining an independent judiciary. How will you ensure that judges don't feel pressure to adopt the guidelines or lose their jobs?
Oh, no. Judges are going to make their own decisions. We're providing them an option. They're going to decide what makes sense. Let's go. Hasn't gone yet. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, were you surprised to hear that Amazon was coming into the city again? And did you have any discussions with the governor about this?
I have not spoken to Amazon. I have not spoken to the governor. I think it makes sense that any major tech company needs to have a presence in New York City. We've become now the second most important tech hub in America, and we're growing all the time. And so it doesn't surprise me at all. But again, they're going to have to do it on their own.
Has Amazon spoken to anyone in your administration as far as you know?
I don't know of anyone. Go ahead, Marcia.
Mr. Mayor, there are public reports about how people at the NYPD are punished internally. Some people seem to get preferential treatment. I wonder how you feel about that. There are published reports that people, that police officers are not punished equally internally to the NYPD. I wonder how you feel about that and whether you think that internal punishment is involved.
Okay, I have not seen the report, but let me speak to the bigger issue. When I came into office, what I heard from a lot of police officers was that they felt that there was a very arbitrary process, that punishment was meted out in ways that weren't consistent, that there was a punitive environment that dominated in the previous administration, and it really chilled the ability of officers to feel that they could get out and serve people and have a relationship with the community. And what we did from the beginning is that we were going to retrain all our officers, focus on neighborhood policing, focus on developing a relationship with the community, and then have discipline become more consistent. One of the things I think that the Blue Ribbon panel really focused on was creating transparent, consistent standards that then were applied evenly. That's what we're in the process of doing now.
On voting, what are some of the options that the city can follow up with if these?
As I said, we're going to look at any and all legislative options, legal options. But the number one thing is if we're giving them $75 million and we're showing them where the poll sites are, and we're saying to them, just make it easier for people to vote, because we all know what happens on Election Day in New York City. It's been a mess for years. So make it easier for people by really opening up the doors to early voting. Make it truly accessible. We'll pay for it. If they don't say yes to that, I think there'll be tremendous anger in this city toward the Board of Elections, and we'll use every tool at our disposal to make them do it.
Your presidential campaign release a list of City Hall staffers that have been working for the campaign.
You'll have to talk to the campaign about that.
Again, on the memo sent to judges from your Office of Criminal Justice, the changing the guidelines of who can who get released. You know, that also includes people convicted of assault, which is concerning for some people. Do you have a response to people who are afraid you're going to let violent offenders back out?
We need to add that standard of dangerousness. I said it in my testimony in Albany in February. It's something, you know, I name judges, and judges, people who are applying to become judges, folks who have been sitting judges, talk to me regularly about the fact that they need that standard. It wouldn't be used in many cases, I don't think, but in the cases that it's needed for, judges must have that freedom to act. It can come with clear guidelines and rules. We've talked to the legislature about making sure it is not arbitrary, but it's based on very specific rules. But I think we need that standard. See if there's anything else. Yes.
So getting back to that, so what programs are in place, or what would you put in place to deal with repeat offenders who are released on bail?
So look at what's happening. Look at what's happening so far. I think the best example here is what's happening in New York City right now. Mass incarceration is down 30% since we took office. 30% fewer people in jail. Arrests in 2018, 150,000 fewer arrests than in 2013. So mass incarceration down, arrests down, and the city is getting consistently safer. So it proves that there are ways of keeping people safe that are not the traditional mistaken ways, where lots of people got locked up for the wrong reasons, for minor offenses, or got kept in jail because they couldn't afford bail. That was broken. We have increasingly used alternatives to incarceration, and they're working, and you can tell they're working because the city has gotten safer 5 years in a row. So we're going to keep working on those, particularly with young people. Young people, instead of giving up on them and leaving them incarcerated, which is only going to harden them and make their lives worse, we're trying to educate them, rehabilitate them, help them on the right path. And that is the whole concept of raise the age, which was decided by the legislators in Albany. To stop treating young people as adults. Young people can be redeemed, and we've proven it. We're going to be doing a lot more of that.
22-year-old man who was pulling the emergency brakes, and he's had 17 prior arrests, and he was just arrested.
Yeah, look, there are obviously cases. I don't think we should make our laws and rules based on the real exceptional cases. That's someone who is a repeat offender if ever there was one. That's a different kind of case. But we're talking about the folks who have done offenses, lesser offenses, who do not have that kind of history, who we can act on and do something to help.
There was an analysis commissioned by the state of the special ed complaint system in New York City, and it expressed a lot of concern about the fact that complaints had gone up 51% over the past few years. There's not enough hearing officers, not enough space. I just want to hear what the city is doing to address that issue.
No, these are real issues, and that the city is doing is committing a huge amount of resources and personnel to addressing the needs of special ed kids and their parents. One of the things we've talked about for years, and you saw it in both budget presentations, is that for a long time, parents were kept from the services their kids needed and forced to go through a very cumbersome legal process, an expensive legal process. And we made a decision as administration to stop that, to make it easier for parents to get the special ed services their kids need. As a result of that, a lot more people coming forward. A lot of folks who needed the help before, but they just felt they couldn't navigate the system. So it is leading to an increase in demand, and we understand that. We now need to keep up with that with more personnel, with more resources. That's what we're focused on. Last call, Marcia.
How do you feel about the ferry service and the fact that there were long lines this weekend? Do you have
Marcia,
plans to add ferry service or add more boats?
No, we've actually added a lot of boats, Marcia, and what I've seen this, throughout the year, the ferry service has been working better and better. It's hugely popular. The challenge we have is on those big holiday weekends, Labor Day, Memorial Day, where they're particularly popular. We put everything we had out there. There was still more demand. But if you look at this from a 365-day-a-year perspective, the ferry service is working. It's gaining popularity. And the day I'm looking forward to, Marcia, is when we work with the MTA so that we can have a single fare get you from the ferry to the bus to the subway or vice versa. And then you're going to see ferry ridership go up even more. Thanks, everybody.